Madam President, the nomination of a new justice to the Supreme Court of the United States brings to our minds a core question, both for the Senate and the American people, and that is, what is the proper role of a federal judge in our republic? How the American people and their representatives and their senators, the ones who've been delegated that responsibility, answer this question impacts not only the future of our judiciary, but I think the future of our legal system and the American experience, really. So we ask this question, what do judges do? Do they faithfully interpret the text of our laws and Constitution as written? Or do they have the power to reinterpret those documents through the lens of their personal views, backgrounds, and opinions? Is the judiciary to be a modest one, applying the policies that others have enacted? Or can it, the judiciary, create new policies that a judge may desire or think is good? We must return to the words and ideas of those who founded our nation, whose foresight resulted in the greatest republic this world has ever known and the greatest legal system anywhere in the world. So it's clear from reviewing these words and ideas and ideals, particularly as expressed in the Constitution itself, that our founders desired and created a court system that was independent, impartial, restrained, and that through a faithful rendering of the Constitution serves as a check against the intrusion of government on the rights of humankind. Our founders knew these limitations, history being what it is, standing alone were not enough. So they created three distinct branches of government, creating a system of checks and balances to prevent any one branch from consolidating too much power. The Constitution gives each branch its own responsibility. Article 1 of the Constitution declares, quote, all legislative powers, that's us, herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, close quote. Article 2 declares, quote, the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States, close quote. And Article 3 declares, quote, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, close quote. And Alexander Hamilton, in Federalist number 78, the Federalist paper that also was written to encourage Americans to support the Constitution, quotes the French philosopher Montesquieu, who said, quote, there is no liberty if the power of judging not be separated from the legislative and executive powers, close quote. So it's thus no surprise that Hamilton says a judge must have an, quote, inflexible and uniform adherence to the rights of the Constitution, close quote. But in order to ensure that judges would consistently display such an adherence to the Constitution in the face of outside pressures, our framers thought about this, and they took steps to ensure that the judiciary was independent from the other branches and insulated from political interference. In order to shield the courts from the threat of political pressure or retribution, Article 3 effectively grants judges a lifetime appointment. Whew. Well, as I mentioned before, this is not an academic exercise or an abstract hypothetical. Judicial activism has enormous consequences for every American, you see, because if judges who are given a lifetime appointment and guaranteed salaries are given the power to set policy, then that is an anti-democratic act, because we've created someone outside the political process and allowed them to set policy for the country, and they cease to be accountable to the American people. The men and women of the Supreme Court hold extraordinary power over our lives. It takes only 5 justices to determine what the words of the Constitution mean. You'd think it's 9, it's really just 5. When justices break from the ideal of modest and restrained practices as described by Hamilton, they begin creating rights and destroying rights based on their personal views which they were never empowered to do. But a number of groups and activists believe that the court is sort of their place, and that social goals and agendas that they believe in that aren't likely to be won at the ballot box, they have an opportunity to get a judge to declare it so. So with these fundamental questions in mind, I hope that the comments I make in the weeks to come will be of some value as we talk about the future of the judiciary, what the role of a judge ought to be on our highest court, and to uphold our sacred charter of inalienable rights.